Once you've determined that you want to start submitting your writing to places to try and publish them, the next question that you have to ask yourself is, which ones are they going to be? Now, there's a lot of different ways of finding different places to submit your writing. There's different Facebook groups that you can look up that all kind of go by the name Call for Submissions or Writers Call for Submissions or things like that. And if you look up through Facebook groups for places like Writers Markets, places calling for submissions and looking for writing, you'll find a lot of different opportunities that'll just kind of come right into your Facebook feed. Beyond that, though, there are 2 or 3 main websites that I like to use. One is called entropymag.org. They're an online publication. They publish a list every 3 months that's called Where to Submit. And they list presses, places looking for full-length books. They list chapbook publishers, places looking for kind of small chapbook length books, so kind of 10 to 20 pages, things like that. And they're also looking for places, they also list places looking for individual submissions for poems, articles, things like that. And if you look up that list on entropymag.org, they have it all kind of laid out. They mention, which ones are there, what they're looking for. They're laid out alphabetically. I also like to use a website that's called The Review Review. So it's kind of like a review of other reviews, a journal of other journals. And they have a list of magazines with a tab at the top. And they have a really wonderful filtering system on the side where you can put in a bunch of filters to narrow down the results to find places that work for you. So you can separate them by pay scales, by poetry, fiction, art, or all of the above, by response time, and anything like that. And the other one that I like to use is another website called Submittable. And Submittable is a website where different publishers can use it to streamline and to manage their submissions. And if a writer makes an account on there for free, you can use it to keep track of your submissions, where you've sent them out. And they also publish a thing called Discovery, where they list places that use their software, which is more and more and more publishers in the world, and they list which ones have calls out for different submissions. So whether you use Submittable or The Review Review or entropymag.org, all those 3 websites or just different groups on Facebook have a lot of different wonderful resources that you can use to find journals that work for you. And they have stuff of all kinds. There's a place called Cartridge Lit that I found through entropymag.org that looks for writing, essay, creative writing, whatever, based around video games. So whatever narrow interest you have, even if you have one of those, or whatever kind of angle or theme or type of writing you do, even if you think there's nothing for it, I would encourage you to take a look at some of those resources, because you might find a place that's just perfect for your writing. So once you find a journal where you want to submit your writing and you want to send something in, on their webpage generally, you're looking for a kind of tab that usually will say guidelines or submission guidelines or submissions. Sometimes they'll be listed as contact, pardon me, but that's where you're going to find out what they want. And basically whatever they say in there, adhere to it. If they say they want it, double-spaced, or they want you to take off all identifying information, do whatever they say kind of in those submission guidelines. And once you send it in, either through Submittable or to their the web address or their email address that they've put down there, you're going to have to write a cover letter. Now, a big beginner mistake I made was thinking that the cover letter for a poem or a story or an article going into a literary journal needed a huge cover letter that explained the whole thing. If you're submitting a full book to a publisher, yes, the cover letter needs a bit more information. But basically, if you're sending a poem, story, article, an individual piece to a literary journal or a magazine, unless they ask otherwise, or unless otherwise stated, this is generally the template that I use. Dear editors, put the name in if you can find it. Please find attached my submission of whatever the submission is, which I am submitting for your consideration. Thank you for your time and for the opportunity. Sincerely, Paul, or Paul Edward Costa. And that's generally all that they need. If they need more, they'll ask for it, and you'll put it in then. But really, it's the strength of the writing. They want the writing to speak for itself, not to have a long, rambling cover letter that tries to explain it before they've even seen the submission. when you're submitting writing to magazines and literary journals, another thing you're going to come across is these submission fees. Now, about half of the ones that I encounter don't have any. You can submit and you don't have to pay anything. But a lot of them will have a very small submission fee. Now, a submission fee is essentially a fee that different literary journals and magazines might ask for. Sometimes it's optional, but sometimes it's not. Where in order to submit your writing, you have to pay a small fee. So sometimes it's usually low, like $1, $2, $3, $4. $5 is pushing it and getting a little high. It's up to you to decide whether that's something you want to do. It is not the same as vanity publishing, which is when you submit a book to a publisher and pay a huge amount of money, hundreds if not thousands of dollars to get it into stores. This is usually something that literary journals will use to kind of handle overhead or pay readers or pay writers, or to kind of keep the lights on, or to do whatever they have to do with that, or to keep themselves running. Some people say that's okay, they'll do it occasionally. Some writers are okay with it, some say absolutely not. If you say you absolutely don't want to do it, there are still plenty of places that don't ask for them that you can go to. But if that's something that you're okay with, or that you can afford, there are more that use that as well. And some will have sort of an expedited kind of streamlined service where if you pay there, they'll answer faster. And that kind of happens as well, and that's something you're going to encounter.